Hello and welcome to Restore 2022. You read chapter 5 of the first letter to the church in Corinth, and you may think that what's going on there is like a soap opera that's gone too far. Paul has heard of their immoral behaviors and he's appalled. He's appalled not only with the immorality, but the tolerant and boasting attitude that the Corinthians are having towards this, which actually it's off-putting even to the promiscuous non-Christians. And as you've noticed, Paul's addressing now has shifted from the divisions in the community of the believers to this blatant immorality in the life of the church. The community of believers had lost their sensitivity to recognize that this was a serious matter. Tolerating this kind of immoral behavior contradicted and jeopardized the credibility of the good news of Jesus with all its transforming power. The power of the gospel is seen in changed lives and as a result transformed communities that are consistent with their words and with their lives. And there are some who feel that actually reading this passage, agnostic distortion of the gospel might have been at the root of the problem, because it was the Gnostics who believed that what was done to the body was unimportant and irrelevant and had nothing to do with one's religion. But what is true is that the Gnostic ideologies infected the early church, but I don't think this is the problem that the Corinth believers are facing. I think that the problem within the Corinthian church was that they were not being strong enough to resist the pressure of conforming to an immoral society. First, we need to remember that this was a new community who had come to faith only recently. And they brought into the church the baggage, the deeply ingrained habits of thoughts and action that actually they stood in big contrast with what God had designed and intended and had in plan for them in their relationship with Him. And secondly, we need to bear in mind that although they were called to be His holy people, they were not called to do this in isolation, put away in an island, but they were called to stand out, to be distinguished in the midst of such pressure, in the midst of their society who was so casually sexualized. Paul uses the analogy of the yeast, verses 6 to 8. And again, this came from the process of preparation for the Passover. And he compares the immorality of the Corinthians that cannot be accommodated, must be removed, like the yeast that had to be searched for, found, chucked or removed before the time of the Jewish Passover. So there was no permission of yeast to be present amongst the Jewish community over the Passover, because this was the symbol of Israel's redemption from the sins of Egypt. Paul was saying that if this issue, if this matter is not handled quickly and directly, it will spread around like the yeast to all the believers, and we will just gradually their behaviors to what has allowed to be the norm. So what Paul is suggesting here is the unpopular thing, for the Western church especially, of church discipline. And I know that there's been bad history and bad press about church discipline, but when it's done in a healthy way, it's nothing to do with personalities, strength, or rank differences. It's to do with a persistent, open, sinful behavior that disregards the transforming power of the gospel and compromises the new life that only God's kingdom brings. The challenge of 1 Corinthians 5 is about this resistance to the pressures of the sexualized surroundings that we're facing, as easy as one click away, and the perseverance with uncompromised witness to what the good news of Jesus brings. This is the reminder that the good news of the kingdom of God is not only for what we're saved from, but also what we're saved for. God bless you.